Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Pal2Pal Podcast, where we explore the stories, challenges, and innovations shaping the future of work. I'm your host, Rich Guerra, and I'm thrilled to kick off this first series with someone who's been right at the heart of this conversation, Vanessa Ramirez. Vanessa's worked with global teams for over a decade, advising startups and enterprise clients on operations, HR, and remote teams management. I'm also excited to have Vanessa today because she's one of those people who just gets the human side of tech. Welcome to the show, Vanessa. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us where you're talking from?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here. I really appreciate it for the space. Well, I'm located right now in Guadalajara, Mexico. It's a city that's well known for tequila, so some of you know a little bit more about where I'm placed today.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for that introduction. And pretty much for this episode and the topic that we want to discuss is we want to go over a little bit about remote work. Is remote work over, or is it simply evolving? In your industry and talent and recruitment, what are the biggest blockers companies face when building distributed teams in remote work?
Sometimes there's like a mistrust with the teams that they can build. They can actually get to manage or they get to lead with the same or enforcement that they do on-site teams that normally sometimes they think it won't be happening or won't be translated at the same time, for remote teams. So those are the main blockers that we have faced, through the years, but mostly are the ones that they domain, the conversation.
Yeah, I think that is a very valid point. I think most of the time managing a remote team in the same city is one thing, but managing a team spread out. And I think as companies expand into global markets like Latin America and they're US based, it's very different for them to manage people from a different culture as well. And obviously on a remote setting. From your experience, Vanessa, what are some of the things that you help with your clients? That are probably US. And I know right now Latin America is a very hot market. What do you tell them when they're, looking to hire remote workers out of Mexico or out of Colombia or those emerging hubs?
Like initially and foremost, they can lower, the budget or sometimes, the expenses they have currently with their models. And having those structures established in the beginning helps them to have a different kind of point of view of how the market is working outside of the U.S. It's a very competitive, salary range between the U.S. and the different cities because, there's just different structures between the states. And after that, getting to tell them, the same time zones. Also, it's a plus because of course, nowadays the nearshoring to have the same time zones. Of course, cultures might be different, but we get to be related from the proximity of the countries we get to know. Normally, it's like an idea of you can get great tech engineers from India, and you can just get, all the finance and structure and investments from China. And Mexico, for example, has just been known for manufacturing or to sample things. But it hasn't been explored that also you can find, thousands of professionals, not just in that area, but also in finance and accountability in the proximity of, the countries between Mexico and all Latin America. Is their experience to have like US GAAP because most of, the companies can have that duality. Have been working, with, their national teams and also with abroad teams. So they actually have a variety and vast experience and great talent and great people that also are committed because that's another thing. With some clients at the beginning of one call with one of them, they mentioned I don't know if I'm really used to working with remote teams. Normally we had on-site teams. And in this chat, we were saying it isn't that hard because actually the people are very committed. One time they were starting, a few people, there were 5 people, I think, in that team.
Yeah.
And they say to us, I'm really surprised. And I'm like, okay, maybe because some situation had happened in the workspace. And they were like, no, because we thought we had to have them on a constant supervising or a constant communication to see if they were actually doing or they're building, what we asked for. And they do it before us. Hey, this is already done. So they were like, we thought that we had to keep the track down so they could actually accomplish what they were doing. So those are like the coolest surprises that we got
Right.
to share.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the main misconceptions about remote work that a lot of companies that don't have like a remote work strategy,
Mm-hmm.
there's a huge misconception that having a remote worker is someone that's going to be, in their pajamas every day,
Yeah.
or they're going to be, doing a lot of things. But I think remote work is actually very flexible. I think a lot of companies before hiring a remote worker, they need to really set up a strategy and understand that, this person is not someone that's going to be micromanaged, and
Yeah.
it's also very independent, and obviously they know how to time their day, because you are more easily distracted in your home versus if you're in an office, you're sitting at your desk.
Yeah.
But having a remote work, you have to have a creation of your own space. And I think talking about remote work, I think right now the world is changing to a borderless state where obviously companies are not restricted to finding talent within a 3 mile radius, right? We can go ahead and find talent where talent is, right? I know previously working with a lot of US companies, there's a lot of states in the US like New York, like Chicago, where talent is very scarce. There's a huge talent war. So obviously these companies need to find global remote talent elsewhere. And I think that's where you come in, and Tecspal also helps in that way, where obviously we help them find the talent, we help them equip them. And I think all of that works into play. But I know right now in the current state of there's a lot of ongoing things that are obviously shaping the way that our companies and the way that other companies decide. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, it's the global politics, all of the social expectations, and the economy. How do you see all of these items, like the inflations, like tariffs? Have they been impacting decisions from your clients, or what do you see occurring?
Well, of course, the economy will always be related to the decisions a company makes. Back in the day, or like a year back or 2 years back, there was a tendency within the companies that they want to, they were in the expected of what would be happening in the presidential elections, or what would be happening with the markets, and they were a little frisk about making decisions, on hiring people internally and externally, like internally within on-site positions and remote positions. So nowadays, after that decision and the presidential, and now the president has been really particular points of view, and the decisions on the tariffs. So basically that's when they decided. And I talked a couple of days ago with one potential clients. They were thinking like, yeah, I know right now it's really particular for the tariffs that we have been going
Yeah.
through, um, and the decisions that we have to make today to actually expand the team right now, or thinking on abroad or remote teams. So I think that this was something for our business on a positive way, because they were looking outside, not just in their own markets. So they were
Definitely.
open to explore what's out there. Talking maybe with other colleagues or other CEOs, like, hey, what's your experience today with these kinds of models or with these kinds of markets? Do you have any idea? So they were a little bit more open and to explore remote, positions today, like maybe a couple of years ago. And actually from the pandemic and after, it was like a before and after
Yeah.
for the recruiting part, and for the hiring part, and for the management part. Because before that, in our experience, the only positions that were considered to be working as a remote position were just IT positions, because they were the ones that are easier to handle, or the ones that were easier to have a conversation, or just to send out the information that we'll be working, or the projects that we'll be developing. But after the pandemic, a lot of companies were able to explore other techniques to expand operations, and how to connect, and how to actually be a more globalized world, to have communications not just within, as you say, a 3 mile radio. So that also expand the decision to develop new methods of communication. For example, the payments. We saw that sometimes banks, they didn't actually close, but it was complicated at some point to actually make wire transfers, to dispose the money, or actually do the payments, or anything that you had to on a daily basis that for us was really normal. And when we got the opportunity to be in that position that you couldn't move, actually, that actually made us think, what can we evolve to, and what can we do so we can change the way that we do, transactions and payments and the platforms and a lot. And there was a boom of thousands of fintechs around the world that supported that path. So that again is an example of how economics, politics, and decisions that happen globally changes, in the way do we connect, not just in our country or on our city, but also connect, on a wide world.
Yeah, perfect. That's a very good, valid point. And I think right now, in particular, with all of the geopolitical and all of the political things that are ongoing, I think companies are always alert. And obviously, one of the main things that we do as a business, either in recruitment or global logistics, because I think this is also impactful to us, because we also have to, send equipment across different countries, and you also have to hire different people across various countries, and obviously that's impactful to that. But I think companies have to be on the lookout, and understand that tariffs change some factors, and where countries buy, where countries won't buy. But also as a company, you also need to be prepared on where you should hire these people, because those things are dependent on that. But great, valid point. And one thing that I want to make the shift on is, you are in recruitment and you help with a lot of staffing. Let's talk a little bit about talent, and where we're right now seeing a very rising demand in regions. I know you're an expert in Latin America, and you also understand a little bit about hiring different talent across the globe, and Eastern Europe, Southeast Asia. There's a lot of emerging markets. I think you mentioned earlier that there is a growing hub in India, obviously, with a lot of tech talent, developers, engineers. What is the rising professional talent pool? What talent are companies looking for? Like in Mexico, are they hiring more lawyers, engineers? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, today, one of the most or the top topics, on positions is going to be related to AI. Because today, the tools are not just for coding, but also to have automation processes within the company. So that has been, up to today, one of the most domaining skill that it has been asked for from the clients. Also, as you were mentioning, what has they're looking for in Mexico. So here from where I am, Guadalajara, and back in the day, like maybe 15 years ago, it has been established a lot of technology companies and a lot of manufacturing technologies related everything to tech. So back in the day, they were referring to Guadalajara as the Silicon Valley of Mexico, just as
Right,
San
yeah.
Francisco, because all the emerging companies that were establishing their operations and all of the focus they were doing back then. So up to today, of course, one of the number one positions that has been asking for Mexico and Latin America as well has been IT, the main domain up to so far. And as a second one, also customer service, because the proximity of the time zone, it's always going to be a win-win, because you have a variety of 1 time to 3 hours. I mean, 1 hour to 3 hours of level with the time zone, but also they have the cultural experience of handling customers or clients within the U.S. or other companies abroad from Europe, because nowadays we are a very more globalized world. So it has been most of those initial position. Of course, they hopefully, and it's our dream as every recruiter, I think, that it can be open on any country with any kinds of positions, because they're always great talent that we can get to connect and get to establish relationships with clients, and they can enrich multicultural teams.
Perfect. Yeah, those are very good points, and I'm glad that you touched on Guadalajara being one of those Silicon Valleys. I think that's a very interesting and hope it's of interest to companies that are expanding. And I'm glad that you touched on kind of like the IT department because obviously we work here at Tecspal with a lot of IT. We specialize obviously in the IT asset management, and we work hand in hand with the recruitment where they help us recruit professionals, and obviously Tecspal is helping them with the remote aspect of their equipment and getting them set up in their onboarding process. And one thing that you also touched on is AI and the use of Chat GPT and automation. Obviously, that's evolving. I think it's very helpful. What do you feel? Because I know a lot of companies are avoiding, the use of AI, but some of them are embracing it. What do you feel is going to happen with talent? Do you think that some of the roles are going to be replaced by AI automation? What are you currently seeing within the talent?
I think it will be on the experience that I have been talking with, even candidates or the companies. I think they will work more as a support than as a replacement. Maybe we can consider, AI for something that we missed as a third party that help us, provide that solution, but not to itself to solve it. A few weeks back, I attended to this summary about, Bank of America. It was the NYU speaker from both of them, and they were actually talking about AI and how will be even, again, replaced on their workspaces, on the finance and the bank operations, and in the university for students nowadays, how they handle even a simple task that they have to solve in a class, or how they actually have that development maybe with exams, or here in Mexico we have this big certification when you get your degree, and you have to make a really big document, and most of people have been answering with AI. And they mention again, it's more to support. It's more like something that helps humans maybe take off a few tasks that those
Right.
could be automatic, but not 100% just take the human out and just
Yeah.
AI will be answered. And he mentioned in the Bank of America that they had a situation actually with customer service, where they did three scenarios different. In one scenario, they were doing an 100% attention with just human to human touch for an X situation to see how the person solved it, if actually provided the solution that he was asking, or the help he was asking with that problem. And on the other scenario, they were doing 100% on AI. It was, as you get to chat with someone on a boot, and you have, the answers, and to see if actually they provided all these scenarios, or the human touch that sometimes it's missing. And the second one, it was mixed. It was the person talking, to the client to get to know how they were feeling with the service, or what's happening, or what's wrong. And maybe he provided, or this person provided two solutions, and then he checked it out real quickly with the model of AI of all the situations that maybe he hasn't lived yet, because he can handle the whole situation for all of the clients. And he go back to consult maybe a situation that with AI, and he provided another solution. So again, it was, to conclude, I think more as a companion today in our every workspace than an 100%.
Definitely. Yeah, I do agree on that with your point that obviously ChatGPT or any AI tool that you may be using is a facilitator. It's obviously to make your life a little bit easier, be able to automate some things, but it's obviously not something that is going to completely do all of your work. But yeah, definitely. It's been a game changer for a lot of companies, and
Yeah,
obviously to some professionals, to proofread your emails, to facilitate some social posting, things like
exactly.
marketing, the use of HubSpot with AI, Salesforce, etc. There's a lot of tools that have been enhanced with AI. Well, great. I think we've come, to an end to our first episode. Vanessa, thank you very much for sharing your insights into the different topics that we touched on, as talent, AI, the political aspects of some of the things that are changing within the talent space. You brought a lot of clarity to a lot of questions that obviously are in people's minds and has helped understand a little bit more about remote work, specifically in Latin America, and how companies are seeing that and how it's evolving. So thanks again for that. And thank you again to our listeners for tuning in to our first Pal2Pal podcast, where we share, the real stories and understanding with our guests the future of global remote work. We want to hear from you and understand a little bit more of what you want to hear. So be sure to follow us. We're also going to be sharing Vanessa's social media and her company's social accounts at the Recruitman. And well, thanks again, Vanessa. See you next time, and keep building bold teams and human teams as well.
Thank you so much. Again, thank you for having me and for being the first person in this amazing podcast. I'm sure that this is going to be, the part from many, many, many people that is going to be sharing their experiences and having other points of view, and to complement the amazing thing that you're doing at Tecspal. I'm pretty sure that this will be, the goal or the main, path you were going to follow for the next ones. And I really appreciate it for you guys having me and for getting me, letting me to experience or to share a little bit of what we do. Thank again for this space, and hopefully we can share more and more experiences of what we do, not just on our personal backgrounds, but as a joint connection between the Recruitman and Tecspal, how we handle different clients, and the experience that we get to have other people that are maybe considering, or they have that doubt, shouldn't. And this podcast helps them to approach, or a little, make that solution to, should I consider it or should I consider it not? But it could be a great door that they can explore, hiring, all the technology from Tecspal, or bringing us on board for their help recruiting needs. But either way, it's a very great opportunity to be here.